Welcome back to Brands Hatch. Apologies for the small technical error, but we are back and live. And qualifying is mostly finished out. Fabian Gerber has the provisional pole for the GTP class, and Milan Arnozzi on the pole for the GTOs. We mentioned that the points race is over, of course, for the championships at the top of the pro classes, but second place is up for grabs in the GTPs, the GTOs, and then third place is up for grabs in the GTPs. So we'll keep you abreast of that. The players in each of those are Mukanos, Arnozzi, and Neidhart for the GTOs, and then Jungbluth and Keefe are racing for that spot in GTP. See Reed Miller working his way around with a little bit of practice here at the end of qualifying. Everybody's got their laps in at this point. But the big thing that we need to worry about, I think, even with as small of a field as we have, Nick, is the traffic here today. I anticipate that to be a big defining factor.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. A couple of weeks ago, we were at Mid-Ohio. I feel like we're going to see that same kind of chaos unfold today. And yeah, we have a small field, only 17 drivers or so here. But yeah, they're going to be running over on top of each other. And these turns, the outside lane that the Nissans are going to have to take, it really unfolds into a wild situation in a lot of different places here.
Certainly are some fast corners. Miller, of course, flirting with the dirt at the edge of the track as he comes towards the back half of the course. This is a 40-minute race this week compared to what they had 2 weeks ago with their endurance format, just a sprint race. And worth mentioning, if you didn't get to see last week at Zandvoort, Phil Lake, after a season long of being oh so close to wins and having great pace, finally snagged one. He was well overdue for that. His Dirty Torque teammate, Reed Miller, now going to come on in. So that will take us to the starting grid for today. On the pole, as I mentioned, it is Fabian Gerber up at the top, having sealed his championship. Philip Lake is starting in second, with Tobias Gerber starting in third. Fabian Jungbluth will be P4, followed by Luis Emerton. Johnny Bell starts P6, and John Keefe, one of the drivers fighting for that third place in the GTP championship, will be last of the drivers to set a time. Ryan Lang will start behind him because he did not get a qualifying lap in. Nick?
Back there, that's where the Audis are going to begin. Milan Arnozzi is back there. He has the Audi pole, and that's going to be 8th place overall on the grid. Dennis Neidhart and Nick Mukanos are going to be behind him, 10th and 11th overall. Reed Miller and Sergey Serbin are going to be rounding out the top 5 in the GTO class. Aaron Cortez, Simo Reba, Michael Haynes going to be following them, and Mikey Olson did not set a time. He'll be starting towards the back of the field.
So just to give you a little bit of a clearer picture as we wait for them to start around the pace lap. There goes the Porsche pace car now. Between Keefe and Jungbluth, there is roughly 13 points. Actually, I should say exactly 13 points between them, but that is not taking into account drop weeks. Actually, let's pull the points up since we do have that pace lap. So let's go to the GTP standings first. Start with that traditionally. So there you can see between Keefe, and actually that is with the drop points put into it. So that gives us a little bit of a clearer picture. The ones that they show us, of course, don't include those typically. So Phil Lake too far back to catch up to Fabian Gerber because of 25 points for a win. And John Keefe too far back to get second place. Now, you see with the drop weeks, Iamaki actually is in fourth. So Jungbluth down there in P5. Let's take a look at the GTP Lights, which is the amateur championship. It is close enough that things could change around between Bell and Koivisto, but it is still unlikely. Slee farther back there, solidified in third. Mike Kopak could maybe take that away from him, depending on how he performs. Let's go to the GTO championship really quick. Nick?
Yeah, it's a good fight over there. Like you said, further back, we have those 3 big contenders to watch out for today. Mukanos has a little bit of a cushion over Arnozzi and Neidhart, but those are the 3 you're going to want to watch today. Rob Olenek has the championship up there. Ben Lafter is in 5th.
Then, of course, there's the GTU standings with Reed Miller leading that. That one is very tight for the championship. Sergey Serbin only 9 points behind. That could absolutely flip for the amateur champ before today is done. Haynes can't catch them, though. At least it won't be likely that he'll catch second place. Cannot catch the leader, being in fourth. So, with that, we are coming up to the final corner with the Porsche pace car leading them through Clark. Duck off into the pit lane and give control to Fabian Gerber. Ooh, and it got a little bit of a stack up, but he gets a nice jump as the green flag comes out. They cross the line towards Paddock Hill Bend. Phil Lake slots in behind him. A little bit of action between Emerton and John Keefe, but they sort it out as they come to Druids. Let's go to the Audis.
It's a big problem here in turn one. Neidhart turned by Mukanos. It's a massive traffic jam. It is a parking lot as they try to shuffle their way through turn number one. But Milan Arnozzi, beautiful start for him. He scoots away from them all.
And I think Mukanos is going to have to retire the car. He takes a tow. I think we've got a replay of that incident. Arnozzi comes out on top of the situation. You said it was Neidhart involved in that too. Here we're watching him. He's the second car you see in line. Is that Mukanos with him?
Yeah, Mukanos goes down to the inside, tries to make that pass. He had a huge run on the front stretch.
So we're going to watch from Miller's view, another one of those drivers fighting for a championship here.
And he got a bit of contact. Serbin behind him as well, or right in front of Reed Miller, that is, got contact.
Oh, and that was just bad luck for the Canadian. Everybody swinging back in front of him. Looks like he avoided most of the damage, if he even made contact at all, and came through. He's in sixth position. Meanwhile, Arnozzi is leading in that class with Neidhart still running second. So that's good news for Dennis, but he's got some ground to make up to Milan. It's about 3 seconds between them. Let's jump back and check in on the GTP since we've had all our focus on that GTO fight. Gerber's leading Lake, which has been the case for a fair bit of this season. It's about 1.3 seconds, but the closest fight that we've got is for third. Jungbluth is being chased by both Emerton and Keith.
Keeping in tow with him for now. I think everyone just trying to shake off the first couple laps here, especially after seeing possibly what happened over in the GTO class.
Well, and they know that things are going to get all the crazier. Ooh, that was Gerber in the background. You saw have a little bit of an off. Oh! And Jungbluth into the wall. So he gets it going out of Sterling. Isn't too damaged, but certainly gave himself a scare. Wow, that snapped.
Yeah, and quickly. It looks like he all by himself. It happened before he hit the curbs.
Well, glad to see him get the car going once again. That makes it now a 3-car fight with Emerton leading the train of Keefe and Tobias Gerber for third, fourth, and fifth. A lot of action very early on, and unfortunately with this small field we've already lost 3 of the cars. Olsen is out, Lang is out, and Mukanos is still in the pits, seeing if he could return to the track knowing he has championship positions to fight for.
Definitely going to be a heck of an uphill battle for him if he does get back on track.
That's for sure. Multiple laps down already. Gerber coming and chasing around as they go through Sheen. A little wide for John Keefe. He keeps it together, though. Not many times you can get away with that coming out of Sheen. And that puts him a little bit off of Emerton as he drops back into the clutches of Gerber. Riding on board now with Tobias, brother of the, once again, reigning champion here in the GTP class. Get a real good sense of the elevation change here, Nick, from on board these cars.
Oh, yeah, and that's very unsettling elevation change as well. I mean, we just saw a while ago with Fabian Gerber just how quickly that can happen.
Boy, he is holding on tight to the back of John Keefe is Tobias Gerber. Coming up through Surtees, and that's a very good run with John Keefe slightly off of the apex. Not sure that this will offer anything up to the number 8 car. No, he's just going to have to wait in line as they swing through Hawthorne.
He definitely has the speed to keep with John Keefe in front of him. A little bit of a toe on the straightaways as well. Just can't quite get up there to get side by side with him. That's such a hard thing to accomplish here at Brands Hatch.
Not missing anything up at the front of the prototypes. This is our best battle in this field. He's been sizing him up. He's been waiting for an opportunity, but as Nick said, just struggling to make something of what he's got. You can see Fabian Gerber's just set the fastest lap of the race, so he is leading comfortably at this point. Let's see if we got a little bit of a run from Gerber. And nope. Oh, well, I thought he wasn't going to do anything with it. Instead, he runs into the back of John Keefe, turns him, and Keefe now falls to 5th as he gets back to the circuit. Was going to step away from this to see if we had a battle back in the GTO class, but the last second, it looked like he had a run and maybe something.
Seems like a bit of a late reaction maybe from John Keefe to get down on the inside. I think just a little bit of hesitation played into that one.
I wonder if Keefe's got some bad understeer, because it seems like he's been missing a lot of apexes. I'm glad to see him get the car back running once again. Let's go over to the GTOs now that we've separated that, because Sergei Serbin in 3rd place has Reed Miller, our GTU potential champion, challenging him, trying to see if he can get on the podium. Around Druids, and then back down the hill once more into the almost stadium-like atmosphere in the midst of this valley. He's keeping touch with him. He's keeping in the tire tracks of the number 10 car. But much like we saw with Gerber, it seems to be very difficult to get very close to the car ahead.
Yeah, every time Reed Miller closes in on the back of the number 10 car right ahead of him, Sergei Serbin, he just almost like, just stalls out like you were talking about just a little bit, and it's just almost impossible for him to get up along side by side with him for a long amount of time.
Makes me wonder if this is going to be a game of waiting for mistakes. With 30 minutes left to go. Speaking of mistakes, that is way off, and he tries to collect it. Uses the 4-wheel drive to bring the car forward. Oh, and what happened to Gerber? He's lost the lead, just behind them. He got into the back of Cortez. And Aaron did nothing wrong here. This was just horrible timing. Watch them come up to Sheen here. The purple car was just minding his own business, trying to ride his line.
Yeah, Gerber goes to the outside. I think just just a bad decision there from Gerber. Thought maybe Cortez would hold it to the inside, but like you said, Cortez was doing nothing wrong there, just racing his line. And Phil Lake saw that as a great opportunity to take the lead.
In the meantime, they have definitely caught the Audi traffic. They go by Serbin in 3rd. This could give a chance for Gerber to get him right back, but we'll see. He's staying within half a second of last round's winner at Zandvoort. They've got something of a break before they get to Neidhart, who's currently 2nd in the GTOs. Coming now to the back half of the course. Wickedly fast turns through here. Incredibly blind, especially up here over Sheen. Both of them managing it well, and in fact, Phil Lake looking like he's starting to pull away slightly.
Definitely looking to continue that speed he had from Zandvoort. Like you said, so many podium finishes this year, so many top 5 finishes, and a couple of mistakes or two, but finally got that win, and now looking for another one.
Got to carry that momentum. Maybe he could finally take it to Fabian Gerber to challenge for championships next season. They slide inside and Neidhart, and once again, traffic not going the way of Fabian Gerber. Sticks his nose in very late. Thankfully, no contact, and everybody comes away clean.
He came away clean, but he definitely lost a lot of ground to Phil Lake.
Neidhart as well, I think, lost a little bit out of that because he's dropped back to nearly 5 seconds behind our GTO leader, Milan Arnozzi. who I'm pretty certain is going to wrap up this second place that he's fighting Mukanos for. Mukanos still in the pits. He is certainly out of it, and currently he is ahead of Neidhart, so that's exactly what he needs to both take the spot and keep the other one at bay.
Arnotzi looking for his second win this year over in the GTOs. Got one at the Nordschleife earlier on. He had something like 3 or 4 wins last season, so definitely a little bit of a step down, but competition has definitely ramped up this season.
I'd agree. And sometimes it was simply a case of drivers who weren't in the championship competition as well. You look at Joni Hagner stepping in every once in a while and snagging a win almost at will, it seems sometimes. Sergey, Serban back in third, still being chased by Reed Miller. We're not giving up on this one, though he's still just about exactly where we left him.
And they've got Johnny Bell, the Nissan, coming through here in just a moment.
Bell currently running last of the GTP class, 7th place. A little bit off the apex for Sergey Serban coming through Surtees, but he's just going to hold to the right, let the Nissan through. Earlier braking in these slower GTO cars, and easy job for him to let him out of the way. Still good to see that we've got most cars running, and I can report for fans of Nick Mukanos, he's gotten back out. He's 5 laps down, I believe, from our leader in his class. Oh, and Phil Lake now with issues. This was self-made.
Ooh, yeah. Got in a little too hot, it looks like.
Druids, this is Graham Hill Bend. At first I thought maybe he touched the grass, but from there he was nowhere near it.
That's going to hand the lead over once again to Fabian Gerber. Back and forth these guys go once again.
And I said it earlier, it all comes down to mistakes. So as we come back live, your leader once again, Gerber, Lake in second. They have been flying because they've got 12 seconds ahead of third place. Luis Emerton, that battle for third, has stayed mostly put. Gerber's holding on to him, but has not been able to threaten for a pass lately. He's about a second behind. So 15 cars running on track with 27 minutes left to go on the clock. So we watch Emerton look to rack up another podium. It's been a while since he's seen a win. I'm sure he won't mind being able to spray the champagne today as we ride on board now with Tobias Gerber giving chase.
This is where Gerber's been sitting this entire race, just trying to close in on him. Like you said, trying to capitalize on any kind of mistake out of Luis Emerton.
You know, it's worth pointing out, too, when we first hopped in during warm-up and qualifying, it seemed it was a little bit overcast conditions, a little bit cool. And I believe it was down in the mid-80s, low 80s for the track temperature. It is now up to 100 degrees, so it's gone up. With as many drivers as I've seen being a little bit offline, I wonder if just adjusting to the changing track conditions has caught a few people out.
Yeah, I think it definitely had something to do with that lap 1 incident we saw in the GTOs. Just a little bit more slippy than we saw in practice. Caught some of the drivers out. Definitely the drivers remaining on track having to adjust to that.
Still, Emerton having to deal with the pressure. He does not have this one nailed down by any stretch of the imagination. Michael Haynes and the Audi just going to pull out of the way. Most of that field is spread far, far apart, so drivers really have no reason to try and hold up this faster class. That's why we're seeing many of them jump out of the way. There you see the gap on screen between Emerton and Gerber, still hovering about 3/4 of a second. Ooh, and we might want to go up to third place in the GTOs because Reed Miller has gotten it down to half a second. For a brief moment, he was within 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, he's definitely been starting to make some stabs at this one. You can see him push harder there through turn 1. Definitely trying to use up as much track as possible to close in on Serban.
With the temperatures going up, are the tires something of a concern in these GTO cars? Because there's some fast corners around this track.
I've got to imagine it is, but I'm pretty sure we're going to see everyone's tires kind of fall off equally. I don't know if we're going to see that much degradation in a 40-minute race. It definitely will come into play, I think, late in the race, last 5 or 10 minutes, but it's definitely something to keep in mind as we might want to take a look at the lead in the prototypes. It's getting awfully close with Phil Lake.
Phil Lake certainly seems to have carried that speed from the last round because he was about 1.5 seconds back, and he's now got it down to 0.6 up to Fabian Gerber.
Yeah, not too often this season, or any season I should say, have we seen someone just chase down Fabian Gerber multiple times a race now. Pretty impressive speed right now out of Phil Lake.
Wondering if it has anything to do with traffic as well, because we could have missed maybe him getting slowed up by some of that. They're mostly clear for a little bit. They're chasing down fourth place really, in the GTOs. It's the battle for third ahead of them that we were looking at just a little bit earlier. So now we get to an interesting point. Two storms come together. Does Miller bother to try and let them through, or maybe he'll get lucky? He'll be able to pass at an easy point, such as Pilgrim's Drop. Ooh, no, he's not going to get lucky. One's going to try and squeeze through, and the other's probably going to try it as well. Both of the Audis stay wide, coming through Surtees, getting onto the power. Little wheel spin for Phil Lake, but he survives, and nicely done by both drivers.
Yeah, I thought maybe Reed Miller might help his teammate there, Phil Lake, in the Nissan. I think he definitely did, but Phil Lake not really able to capitalize on much there. No mistakes made there. Very clean job by everyone.
Continues to ride behind our current champion and the race leader of Fabian Gerber in his number 1 car, appropriately being followed by the number 2. They work their way through Clearways and Clark, and he just hovers right at that half-second mark. He's been so close to him for so long, but can't seem to get much closer. Is this a wake thing maybe? Is turbulence causing it difficult for him to get closer?
That's what I'm starting to wonder, if he just closes in and then hits that wall of air. I've been wondering that if that is the case. I think it might be. It's definitely doesn't make it much easier for him if it is the case.
Yeah, he closed so quickly. It's strange to see him not be able to do much beyond that. Let's not forget the battle behind them as well. Luis Emerton and Tobias Gerber still fighting for the podium spot, as there's a big slide from Emerton coming through Graham Hill Bend. Gerber not able to take advantage. Once again, very wide through Surtees from the number 7. Up and over Pilgrim's Drop. And then breaking into Hawthorne. That one looked a lot cleaner for Luis. Coming through that swift right-hander. Down through the valley of Dingledell. And then over the crest of Sheen. Oof, and once again, 2 wheels off into the dirt as we rode on board with Gerber. He's done that a number of times this race. I feel like that's going to bite him after a while.
I think so, and they're about to come up on Reed Miller. Actually, they are on top of Reed Miller and Sergey Serban right now, trying to make their way through them. Serban going to stay to the bottom.
He tries to come back to the racing line, but there goes Tobias Gerber sneaking around. That does put him off into the gravel. Serban somehow holds on to his Audi. Miller still can't take advantage. It almost looked like Reed either missed a shift or intentionally lifted coming off of Clark, because he dropped back very quickly, but thankfully he's now back in the fight with the number 10. I say thankfully, but that's more for the viewers, not thankful for Serban. I understand we may have had something happen to Cortez. I think he got into the wall, it looks like. Looks like we won't have time to see the replay because Phil Lake has managed to chop 1 more tenth off. 2 more tenths off. He's now down to 2/10 of a second behind Fabian Gerber. They work their way over Paddock Hill Bend and then down through the valley, eventually up to Druids. He has been threatening, applying the pressure, doing everything he can. But the one thing I think he wishes he could do is actually take a stab at an overtake.
Yeah, just saw a little bobble out of Phil Lake on the curbs there. Little mistakes like that, you know, they're going to add up as you see that gap open up a little bit now. Gerber's able to stretch away by about an extra tenth. Those little mistakes are going to add up.
And we got a battle for third in the GTOs. Reed Miller's finally had to go around the outside of Paddock Hill Bend. Now it's around the outside as they make contact to Druids. He somehow seals the deal, finally getting onto the podium, but Serban is staying right with him. Let's look at the replay before this erupts again.
On the outside.
And you can see right there, he's already setting it up. And Clark and Clearways pulled the over-under. The Canadian with a nice move. Almost lost it back as the number 10 certainly was aggressively fighting to retain it. Whew. As we come back live, you can see it's still only 0.4 of a second between them. Coming out of Sheen, under the bridge, and then returning to the Brabham straight up at the front of the course. We've got these little duos spotted all around the track, having nice little fights amongst themselves as everyone else continues to seem to spread apart. A little bit wide, but no drama from Reed Miller. They're going to be overtaken by Fabian Jungbluth, currently sits in 6th in the prototypes. We ride on board with Serban now.
He's on the flip side of this now chasing him after holding off Reed Miller for this the entire first half of the race. We have the Nissan of Fabian Jungbluth coming up. We'll see him out the window there in just a moment.
A little bit of miscommunication too. You could see
Yeah.
Serban thought he would hold to the right and then just second guessed himself. Everything worked out in the end. Jungbluth sneaks by. That battle continues. I can report that Emerton has started to pull a gap on Gerber. It's now 3 seconds in P3 for the prototypes. So that one's falling apart.
Yeah, I think Tobias Gerber was held up by traffic in that battle. That seemed to be the issue.
Considering Emerton started this one in 5th, I think he'll be very happy with a P3 when all is said and done. What about that fight we were talking about earlier? Remember Keefe and Jungbluth worrying about 3rd in the prototype championship. Well, currently Keefe is at the head of that. You see Jungbluth running back in 6th. So the lead overall between Gerber and Lake dropped away from one another briefly. It was up to 1.5 seconds for a moment. Traffic, I believe, another issue there, but it has come back down once again. I think we can pretty solidly say at this point that Lake seems to be the faster of these two.
He does indeed, but one thing to keep an eye on is the lead over in the Audis. I think Milan Arnozzi is kind of starting to lose that gap actually quite significantly. That was a 3 or 4 second gap towards the beginning of this race. It's now about a 1.5 seconds. Dennis Neidhart really starting to close in on Arnotzi.
Question is, if Arnotzi finishes in second behind Dennis, is that enough of a points gap to allow Dennis to overtake him in the points? Or is Milan still safe sitting in that position to take second in the GTO championship? We'll have to look that up and double check. We are well past halfway at this point, 15 minutes really left on the clock here at Brands Hatch. If you're just joining us, it is the season finale of the Kamel GT series. Fabian Gerber is your leader up in the prototypes. It is Milan Arnotzi leading the GTOs. This is the battle for third that we see on screen. Reed Miller having recently overtaken Serban. He's having to let a few cars by, including our GTP leaders, and that's going to cost him a lot of time. Miller saving the car big time coming out of Hawthorne.
Scary moment for him, definitely.
Well, this is great news for the number 10, because he was about nearly a second behind Miller with all that traffic coming through, and regained all of it in that one corner. It is now 0.3 of a second between them. Down the Brabham straight once more over the crest. Oh, and another bobble once again coming into the corner from Reed Miller.
Yeah, Serban is there. Definitely looking to take that spot. Especially as time winds down. I mean, the opportunities as well really starting to fade away. We have 13.5 minutes on the clock, but as he goes wide there, might be able to stick his nose in here.
He's going to try it, looking for it in Surtees. Miller's going to give him space, but he is way out in the marbles. And that is going to hand it over to Sergei Serban. Back to P3 for him. So doing a little bit of quick looking at the points. I believe it is 25 for win, 22 for second place, correct? Pretty confident that's the case. Yes. Out of Westfield, very good from Miller. But so hard to pass back here. He's just kind of stuck behind Serban. So in that case, knowing that, Arnotzi can actually let Neidhart through, and he'd still take second in the championship.
Pretty ideal situation.
Yeah, it's a 6-point difference between Arnotzi and Neidhart. Both of them will overtake Mukanos, just by nature of Mukanos' problems, unless one of them wrecks. Oh, and another look to the inside coming through Paddock Hill Bend. Reed Miller up into third. Serban just hounding him.
Yeah, really out of nowhere. Just went for it, dove it in there nicely.
Absolutely mugged him. They are coming up to some lap traffic of their own, in their own class. Michael Haynes in front of them. I wonder if he could play a role in this fight. Hopefully Haynes will be able to pull out of the way when the need comes. Oh, and we got a battle for third in the prototypes. Emerton's going to try to go the long way around of Hawthorne to hold him off, and somehow he finds the grip. Gerber's going to have to try harder than that to get by Luis.
Gerber's been looking at the back of the number 7 car this entire race. He's just about sick of it. He wants to get around. They're going to have quite a bit of traffic ahead of him.
Yep, that was Haynes that we were talking about. He did pull out of the way, but now they got the fight for third in the GTOs, the Audis, and once again, we're going to see drivers having to, I thought they were going to have to weave through them across the front stretch, which isn't terribly straight. A late dive by Tobias Gerber gets him free, but also puts Reed Miller slightly offline, offers an opportunity for Serban if he wants it, but he does not want it. He does not stick his nose in coming to Druids.
thought he got so close there. I thought he might give him a little bump, but he didn't take the opportunity. Gonna hold back for now.
Thought maybe he was going to try and go on the attack somewhere in here. Just looks like he doesn't have anything in the tires left. As that happened, I think we got a chance to step away for a replay of Jungbluth. I think he had some issues. Oh, he did. This was out of Westfield. I think he managed to avoid hitting anything. Ooh, just the bumps maybe?
Well, we saw him have this issue very early in the race as well. I think that car just snappy on him. Hard to tell.
Well, this has put a smile on the face of Johnny Bell, because as we come back live, you can see out of Surtees, Bell is within a second. This might be the first time all race he's had someone to race with. This is for 6th position. Fascinating, the ebb and flow of this race, because as one battle starts to separate, others start to get close together, because Gerber and Lake have come apart from one another once again, but we've watched Emerton and Gerber, who are very close, and Miller and Serbin are now close as well. Of course, we've been watching these two tussle for quite a few laps.
Serbin's dropped off just a little bit, it looks like.
Yeah, I think Miller's got the car underneath him. Sergey just unfortunately going to have to collect himself and regroup, come back at it, as he falls off to a whole 7/10 of a second now. Only 8 minutes left, so he's starting to run out of time to do something. Let's take a look at Tobias once more, because he's got it chopped down to about 3/10 of a second. Tobias Gerber chasing Luis Emerton. Nick talked about how much he's been seeing the rear wing, the gearbox of this prototype. I don't know. Will we see a frustrated Tobias, Nick? Or do you think he'll send one in desperately, or do you think he'll just cruise back here?
It's hard to tell. He's been cruising back here for the entire race, but I'm not sure how willingly that has been. And you mentioned earlier, maybe this is just the wake from these cars at this track, especially. They get up there, they get close. Tobias Gerber gets up to the rear end of Luis Emerton and just hits that wall of dirty air, and that might be one of the things slowing him down. He's going to have to find a way to manipulate the air and manipulate the traffic to go in his favor. You see them pretty aggressively over the curbs there.
We saw from the onboard as well through Westfield. He got so close and then just fell way back. It was within about 2/10 of a second, and now it's up to 8/10. Oh, an on-screen battle between Miller and Serbin. Miller to the inside through Hawthorne. Serbin going on the attack the long way around. He had this done to him earlier. Can he return the favor? Not quite.
Might be able to cross it over just a little bit. Not going to be able to keep the momentum, though, I don't think, through here. Gets real tight up underneath the back of the number 11, Reed Miller.
Up the Clark and Clearways. Oh, and Miller is way offline. He's off course now. He's in the kitty litter. He's able to keep it going, but he easily loses out to Sergey Serbin, who is now up to P3.
We were waiting. We mentioned a couple times in this race, just one little mistake is all it's going to take.
Well, unfortunately, someone needs to tell the Canadian the apex was that way, as he gave it a complete miss and has fallen off by 2 seconds.
He's having more problems now. Got into the back of Fabian Gerber, actually, a little bit, it looks like.
Whoa, and we unfortunately can't see the replay for that quite yet, because what that has done has allowed Phil Lake to regain the ground that he was losing. It is within 2/10 of a second. 5 minutes left, and the race for the lead is on once more. I kept saying it.
Indeed.
I kept saying it at the start that even if we don't have a lot of cars, even if the championship battles are done, the action is not over. Oof, Phil Lake using up a little bit of the grass coming out of Sheen. He stays with it. And once again, this is just phenomenal pace. We cannot stress this enough. 39 seconds back to third place. These two have just dominated today.
Yeah, it's so impressive what they've been able to do here as they get around some more Audi traffic, especially Phil Lake, to be able to close in this many times on Fabian Gerber. This many times in the same race. Unbelievable the pace he's having and just driving the wheels off that Nissan right now.
That was Simo Raba. Just want to mention his name since he hasn't gotten any screen time, I think, at all, except for that moment that they lapped him. Poor guy. Riding on the 007 cam of our leader, looking back at Phil Lake. He got one win. He's hungry for another. Stays right underneath him. Looking to maybe get an opportunity when we see yet another mistake from one of these drivers.
And that one win of Phil Lake, that's opposed to Fabian Gerber's 6th this year. He's looking for 7 to finish the year 7 out of 12.
Certainly taking the lion's share. Fabian is withstanding the pressure. He's not been without mistakes. He's given up the lead once or twice so far. And these cars are lapping at about 113, 114 pace, depending on traffic. So we're seeing 3 laps left to go. Incredibly, despite a really chaotic start, we still have 15 of the 17 drivers running.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic race. Bit of attrition there at the beginning. Thought maybe we'd see some more retirements, but no, a lot of drivers have been able to come back. It looks like we might be having 4 laps to go here, 3 when they come to the line.
On to the back half of the course once again. As much as we're watching this, I'm keeping half an eye on the battle for first in the GTOs, because Neidhart is closed in within a second of Arnotzi. Just as we stepped away, we don't have to go to it, but Lake with more wheels in the grass out of Sheen. There you see our leader, Milan, fighting for second in the championship now that he is unable to catch Rob Olenek. Even though he's not here racing in this race, we have to give a lot of credit to Rob. Not only has he taken the championship here in the Kamel series, but he won the championship over in the Lotus 49 series as well. This has just been an incredible season for the driver who loves these vintage cars. Meanwhile, we're looking at Emerton, who's been caught by Tobias Gerber once more.
Action all over the track. People trying to get positions here late in the going. Just about down to 2 minutes.
Time ticking away very quickly around this track. Oh, way wide from Luis Emerton. Gerber, unfortunately, is not going to be able to take the inside line because Emerton fended him off, covered it off into the hairpin of Druids. Oh, and Fabian Gerber into the wall.
Oh, no.
This was traffic, and not only that, it was the battle for the lead in the GTOs. Dennis Neidhart trying to track out, and he misjudged. Watch this coming out of Sterling.
Neidhart trying to chase down Arnotzi, and just like you said, washed up a little bit into the left rear of Fabian Gerber.
The huge gap that they had built up means that Fabian is still in second place. Yeah, I think the DH driver thought that he was going to clear him by the time he came back to the racing line. And just it's inches that you're playing with at this level of racing, unfortunately.
Such a tight track already, and then tight battles you throw on there.
So as we come back live, that means Phil Lake with a 10-second lead is getting ready to take the white flag. And our Notzi, who didn't get as much of a breather with that incident, he's leading by about 2 seconds over Neidhart, but that certainly scuppers the opportunity for Dennis to try and fight for the win.
Phil Lake here coming up on the white flag.
And he's about to lap 5th place.
Oh,
That's John Keefe that he's coming up to. John has no one to battle with himself, so he's just going to pull out of the way of longtime cohort here in the Kamel Series, Phil Lake. A lot of racing they've done together. Got to give some credit to Phil. This is a never say die attitude. A lesser driver would have given up earlier in the season. We've seen him even jump over to the Audis momentarily, but came back here, decided he wanted to have more of a go to see if he could finally get that win. He got it last round. Now he's looking to get win number 2 in a row. He's getting ready to lap Nick Mukanos. Disappointment for Nick losing the 2nd place in the championship, but his teammate is going to have a smooth road as he lets the Dirty Torque driver through. Coming around the final corner and onto the Brabham straight, Phil Lake going to be your victor here today at Brands Hatch. Milan Arnozzi. This is going to be victory number 2. A drastically different course than what we had at the Nordschleife. The tight confines, the short lap here at Brands Hatch is going to give victory to Milan Arnozzi. What about the battle for 3rd in the prototypes? Emerton and Gerber still going at it, and one small mistake could give this up. Luis has got to be smooth on the power out of this final turn. No wheel spin is all he's asking for, and the number 7 gets it. A nice podium earned for Emerton. Gerber, despite his efforts, Tobias not going to be able to spray the champagne today. Believe that's going to take us to break as we get ready to give a little rest before we return with the official results as well as driver interviews. And stick around because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC.
I can still remember what it was like the first time I stepped into a race car. The sound of the engine, the anticipation, but I never could have imagined where this journey would take me. My father once told me that racing is just like life. You have to stay on your toes, because you never know what's around the next corner. is Bill Watson, and this is my story.
Welcome back to Brands Hatch. It was a good one out there with a lot of battles lasting nearly the entire race, even including for the lead in the prototypes, although Fabian Gerber did not get to fight it to the flag like maybe he would have wanted. Phil Lake wound up being your victor over there with Fabian Gerber coming home in second. He still took the championship, even though Lake took the last 2 wins of the season. Luis Emerton held off Tobias Gerber to take third. Tobias finishing fourth, and John Keefe with a fifth place last car in the lead lap. He was let through by Phil Lake at the end. Fabian Jungbluth was sixth, and Johnny Bell was seventh. Ryan Lang DNF'd early on. Nick?
In the Audis, right behind him, 8th overall, actually, is going to be where the Audis begin. Milan Arnaud, he takes his second win of the season after the Nordschleife. Dennis Neidhart, he made it a heck of a battle at the end there. A little bit of contact, a little bit of traffic separated them. Neidhart's going to come home second today to round out the season. Sergey Serbin, really solid performance by him. He was battling Reed Miller the whole race, but give that spot to Serbin. He is your third Audi on the GTO podium. Reed Miller, like I said, right behind him. Aaron Cortez going to get a top 5 this season. Might be his first top 5. Michael Haynes behind him. Sibo Raba and Nick Mukanos after a lap 1 incident is going to be last place, with the exception of Mikey Olsen, who did not take the grid today. That's going to round out our 17 cars.
And we've got our winner ready to talk to us, Phil, in and around the lake. Phil, I leave for 1 week and you break your duck without me, but you've carried the momentum. You've got 2 victories in a row now. Congratulations.
Yeah, I had to wait all season for it, but yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame the way last week Fabian wasn't there, and this week Fabian had a little incident, so still not a clean win. So I'll have to come back next season.
Ever the perfectionist. Well, I'm glad to hear that it sounds like you will be back next season. Are you going to try to actually beat Gerber to the championship next season, or do you not really going to bother about that? Just kind of let things play out how they play out.
That's the plan. Would be to 100% focus on the championship next season.
Well, that'll be exciting to watch, to see if you could bring it to Fabian with the dominance that he's shown. Do you count this as a little bit of a home victory with it being at Brands Hatch?
Yeah, Brands Hatch isn't too far away for me. I've never been, but it's not too far away, so it's definitely a home race.
I bet that feels good. Well, congratulations on number 2 for the season, ending on a high note, sir.
Thank you.
That was Phil Lake, winner. And up next, I believe Nick is going to be talking to Fabian, who finished second today.
I am indeed. Fabian, it was a second place finish for you, but it was a heck of a race. We saw you back and forth with Phil Lake there, leading the race a lot of times. But I got to ask you right off the bat, talk about that last lap or the 2 laps to go, that incident you had.
Yeah, I'm very, very disappointed, I have to admit. It was for no reason. I was clear in front pretty much, and he just pushed me away like I wasn't there. So there was no reason for that, and without this incident, I could have won if nothing else had happened. But sometimes stuff like this happens. So I think I still got champion. That's the most important thing. So it's not that bad.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. Definitely not the way you'd want to finish the year. But like you said, it was a great season for yourself. 6 wins. I mean, how would you rate this season with the championship run that you did have?
Yeah, I have to say it was pretty much. I'm quite sure it's my best season ever in iRacing. I had only first and second places, no DNFs, and it was almost today, but that wasn't my fault. So I'm really happy with this season.
Yeah, 50% of the races going to victory lane ain't bad. I'm sure a lot of people would love to have that. You planning on joining us next season to see some more of that speed?
Yes, of course. Yes, I will stay in Kamel GT. I love that place. Everyone who's watching, please give it a try next season. It's both cars are great, and it's great racing, great people. So I think I'm here for a long time to go.
That sounds like a plan. I think we are as well. It's a great series to watch, and we will see you next season.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. Bye, guys.
That was our current champion and second place today, Fabian Gerber. Up next, we've got fourth place finisher over in the GTOs, Reed Miller. Reed, you and Sergey Serbin certainly look like you had a lot of fun out there, but it looks like it all came down to a mistake in the final corner late in the race.
Yeah, it was a great race with Sergey. Yeah, I overcooked the last corner, and that was pretty much it. Didn't have enough time to catch up to him, so it was good though. It was fun.
How did traffic feel out there? Because even with very few cars, it looked like it could be a little awkward in places.
Yeah, this is like a pretty. There's some high speed parts, and that causes crazy little confusion since our cars aren't as fast as the other cars. But it wasn't too bad really. It was pretty normal, par for the course.
With iRacing having released the schedule for next season recently, is there any track in particular that you're looking forward to going to coming in season 3?
To be honest, I haven't even looked at the schedule for next season. I focus on the race that's coming up right now, so I'm looking forward to all the races next season. I'll be back for sure.
Oh, fantastic stuff. We'll be glad to have you back. And one more question before we let you go, though. You were fighting for the amateur championship this season. Are you going to be bumped up to the pro championship, the GTOs instead of the GTUs?
Yep, I think so. I crossed over the iRacing threshold at some point this season, so I'm gonna go up. I think I won too, so it's a good reason to move up.
Exactly. All right. Well, congratulations on that, and can't wait for season 3, Reed.
All right, thanks, and thanks to Sergey and Michael Haynes competing in the GT this season. They did great work, so looking forward to racing with everyone next season.
Sounds good. That was Reed Miller, fourth place finisher. Up next, third place over in the GTPs. Nick's going to talk to Luis Emerton.
Yes, I am. I'm here with Luis. He finished the race in third place with a Gerber in front of him and a Gerber right behind him. But the Gerber behind you, Tobias Gerber, you saw him fill your mirrors this entire race. How was that?
Oh, that was exciting. That's one of the most fun races I've had in Camel for a long time. That was so intense. Like Gerber was definitely faster than me, but it's a hard track to pass at, so I was trying to just keep that in my advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a lot of guys, get a lot of pressure put on them today and then make a mistake. Really didn't see that from you at all. Did you have any sketchy moments when it came around traffic or something like that?
Yeah, I had some really sketchy moments in Sector 1 where I forget the corner name. I don't know the track that well, but it was getting really loose towards the end of the race on me. So I had a few slides that somehow didn't snap back on me, and traffic was pretty okay actually. I was surprised.
You mentioned you had that slide in the first sector of the track. Me and Joe are wondering, were tires a big issue here at the last 10 minutes or so, the fallout that you saw from them?
No, I think it was just me overdriving, overheated them a couple of times, and then that kind of spirals out of control. But I didn't check the tire wear afterwards, but I think it was just me.
That will do it as well. But nonetheless, that drive is going to put you on the podium to wrap up the season. So I'd say that's a pretty good way to go out.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely happy. That was more than I could have expected.
Absolutely. Anyone you want to give a thank you or a shout out to before we let you go this evening?
I just want to have a shout out to Fabian Youngblut because he's a really funny guy to race against, and he does some events with us in the team. So yeah, big shout out to Simsport News and Fabian Youngblut.
Absolutely. A lot of fantastic community here in Camel GT, and we're looking forward to next season. Hopefully we see you there.
Yep, see you next season, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye.
That was, of course, third place finisher Luis Emerton. Last one we're going to talk to is John Keefe, who finished in P5 today. John, you were close to Luis earlier on, and then you got a little bit of a bump from Tobias. Do you put that one more on Tobias, or did you lose control of the car?
Yeah, I was actually trying to catch it right there. I got on the brakes a little too late, and I'm sure he had no time to react. So that's all on me today.
After that, you seemed like you were cruising a bit, and you started to lose touch with Tobias. Was there damage on the car from that cost you pace?
No, I just naturally lost pace. After thankfully it was just like a really quick recovery to get going again. After that, I just kind of settled in. I wasn't really going to race anyone. Fabian Jungbluth was right behind me there for a little while. I don't know what happened with him, but maybe something with traffic. And then from there, it was cruise home. And thankfully, everyone behind me was a lap down at the end because Phil let me by to finish on the lead lap, and I didn't have enough fuel. So.
Well, we didn't catch that. So I'm really glad that you managed to make it home then. Not next week in particular, but 2 weeks from now, we're going to Bathurst. Are you a little bit worried about that one kicking off the season, or do you feel pretty comfortable with that having been on the schedule a few times now in Kamel?
I'm comfortable with it, but it really always depends. Every race there is completely unpredictable, especially with traffic when you catch them. So, I look forward to it. So I'm not dreading it, but I like Bathurst. I enjoy that track a lot.
All right. Well, look forward to seeing everybody come back in 2 weeks' time, and congratulations on the top 5 today, sir.
Yep. Thank you, Joe. Have a good one.
That was John Keefe, the Hoosier, running from 7th place to 5th place. So positions gained for him. And that's going to close us up for the day. So, of course, we want to thank the Kamel GT community for another season of broadcasting, as well as iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. If you get the opportunity, make sure you go to their YouTube page and subscribe so that you get all of their races, including the official World Championship runs, in your YouTube feed. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks goes out to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Nick, Amjed, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook, the Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, head on over to our YouTube page as well and hit that big red subscribe button so that you don't miss a moment on GSRC. As we mentioned, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time at Bathurst. That'll be Saturday, June 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern. But we also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.